Hello YouTube, and welcome to another update video on Shadow Legacy. We're here checking out the new version that I released last night and released a patch for this morning. In this update, 1.1.1, we add a fair few new things. First things I want to check out are the new spellcasting things. So grab a staff here, got our best stuff in the game currently, and we've got the new targeting type of disc. This could be obtained by going to research and going to Armthay, unlocking AoE targeting, and then you can unlock disc here, which is attached to it. And the disc research effectively acts like an AoE but in front of you, or at least that's the goal of it. The way it works is it creates a bounding box between your position and where you're looking, and it will effectively attack every mob within that area, or cast at the location of each mob in that area. If combined with the dig spell, for example, or like the regular AoE dig spell, where it digs a 3x3 or a 5x5 if you improve its range, it does have a few quirks about it. So if you aim directly down an axis, just straight ahead of you, there is a potential chance if you're looking like absolutely dead ahead, it will in fact have a width of 0 to that bounding box and won't be able to hit anything. So I do recommend, if you are using it, you aim at an angle, and that'll make the box bigger for aiming. That's just something to keep note of with that. The other thing that was added to the spellcasting group is the new spell type blasting. This is a explosion effect, and essentially it will do damage to things and sort of blast them up in the air. It has a config option to enable block damage if that's what you want. However, it's obviously off by default because I figure that most people will not want people to be able to blow up blocks with this because it is rather destructive, I would say. The explosion size can obviously be bumped up by amplifying it, so that's a thing that exists. So the other thing that was added to spellcasting is actually within the Surrogate tab, the equipment. To get access to the research in question, you need to first do projectiles, and that will unlock arcane archery as an obtainable research. This thing allows you to craft the arcane bow using this recipe here. Now, if you have the arcane bow and you just want to use it as a bow, you can. It will fire arrows as you would expect. I haven't tested it with tipped arrows or spectral arrows. I don't think they work. As far as I'm aware, they do not work. But we can test that out now, live, because I didn't think about this earlier. Let's find out if it works. Well, that's not a very good test. It does not work. It does not use the tipped arrows. If I put them on offhand to make sure it definitely should be using them. Again, I'm killing these things, which is not helpful. It does not use them. It will still use them, but it won't use the effect of them. To make up for this, the bow is not only indestructible, but if I grab a spell focus, such as the flame one here, and I equip it to the bow by right-clicking, just like I would with a staff, so it's the same system as a staff does for equipping spell focus, you can fire it at a mob. It's in the water, so it's not going to get set on fire, but it will in fact apply the effect of that focus on that mob, essentially acting like a projectile target type. And you'll notice when you hover over the bow, it tells you what's equipped, but it doesn't show the targeting type, and the cost is actually less than it was before. Well, essentially it effectively applies its own targeting type to whatever spell focus you put on there. So for example, if I grab my blasting one, you'll see it's a projectile, and it costs 5, or my channeling blink I've got here. You see it still costs 5, but obviously it isn't using the projectile targeting type, it's using this arrow targeting type that it is. Best demo for this would be Blink here, which of course, as I said on the thing, shows that it has channeling on its targeting type. But obviously when I fire it, it's not firing a beam out of my bow, it's just firing an arrow that when it lands somewhere, I teleport to that position. Now of course, because of the way that Minecraft works, with arrows you can't get stuck in walls and stuff, but I think that regardless of that, Blink is probably still one of my favourite ones to put on here from my testing. I do also like putting blasting on because it's kind of cool firing explosive arrows, especially if I were to go to my spell workbench and put amplified on it. Upgrades such as Frugal will also work. That will still work with the bow, so don't worry about that. And you'll see that Amplified makes the explosion quite a bit bigger. So you can see why I have block damage turned off for this. And as I mentioned before, the bow is indestructible. It will use up arrows if I'm in survival, but because I'm in creative, so it doesn't. So that's the thing. Let me just check that on the floor so I can clear my inventory. And get on to the next part of the mod. So, next part of the mod goes into the LQ tab. However, to unlock the required research, you need to complete staffs. Pretty simple requirement. And that will give you access to this, Void Energy, which, once I complete, will allow me to craft these things called Void Crystals using a diffusion ritual. So I just diffuse a pure crystal block in the diffusion ritual. I think this is the first one that I've actually done. I know there is another diffusion ritual. There's this one, use a block of diamonds. It makes 9 diamonds, which was a kind of demo one that I forgot to remove. But I've kind of just left it in because it's a thing now. So if I put pure crystal in here, you'll see that we can actually diffuse this down into a nice void crystal. Like so. Oop. Once you've got a void crystal, you'll see that it has tooltips. So it's right click to insert mana and sneak right click to extract mana. And what you can do, if you watch my mana bar on the top right, each time I right click with it, it will eat up one of my sort of pips of mana that I have, and it will fill up the crystal slightly. The mana, a void crystal can store up to 4 mana at any given time, so even if I had more, I wouldn't be able to fill it up more than this. I could just quickly demo that by doing this, and then one of these. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Well, it will work fine. And you'll see I'll get a new mana once I finish this. A second here. There you go. It gives me that back because I put one in there. Even if I try and put more mana in, it won't let me. And I can shift right click to extract the mana back out to get it back. And you'll notice when I hover over it, it says bound to my soul. If another person holds it, it will say it's bound to another soul. And the way that that is set up is that not only does it link to your specific character's research for crafting and whatever, but it also means you can't share mana to other people using this. This is something I intend there to be a way to do in the future, because in the lore there is a thing called an arcane bond, which lets you essentially permanently share mana with someone and sort of work better together and all of that. However, because of the fact that it is possible to have, say, like 2 Minecraft accounts, or whatever, there are ways in which you could make one person incredibly powerful, just, you know, without any added effort, essentially. It's just a thing that has come to mind, so that's something that may be coming on down the line, but isn't in currently. So, you're probably wondering what void crystals are used for, other than storing mana for whatever reason. Well, it comes into these connected researches, the Arcane Furnace and the Arcane Forge. So let's try out the Furnace first, because this is the one that you've never seen before, if you've never played previous things. So the Arcane Furnace, it does support side interactions, so I can put like a hopper on it, for example, and I'll put cobblestone into it. I'll put cobblestone into the hopper, it will start going into the furnace. So if I open up the furnace, see it's got this slot here, which is the processing slot. It's got an output and a slot for a void crystal. If I put the void crystal down to just using 1 mana, pop that into this slot here, you'll see it starts processing the cobblestone into stone. The more mana that's stored in the void crystal, the faster it will do this. So if I put 4 in, the maximum amount, it will run at max speed, which is this. And you can see it processes pretty quickly, I would say. And of course, it doesn't use up the mana, because much like how our mana regenerates over time, the void crystal does the same thing. So essentially it's just holding it for later. So it's kind of like a potential amount of energy, but it will always have that much energy in the crystal at any given time. Because the void is like an infinite dimension where energy is stored in this universe. So that is how the furnace works. It's pretty simple. Of course, furnace recipes don't use research, so they don't even need to get into that for this bit. But essentially, any void crystal will do. There. So now we move on to the Arcane Forge. This is a block that I know a lot of people probably don't like, because they've been dealing with it in Lordcraft in versions other than the very latest one where it was changed. But it's a bit different in this mod. So in this, it behaves more similarly to the Void Forge, so in the sense that it's powered by Void Crystal, so that goes in that slot. And it actually has 5 input slots instead of the usual 2 you'd expect from in previous Lordcraft versions, and it's got this bar at the bottom which obviously shows research requirements like it does in the crafting bench. It's got an output slot here, and the way that the Forge works is it actually performs fusion rituals automatically. So you can see in the fusion ritual section it's actually displayed as one of the items that can do it. And obviously we can test out a few of these. So let's try out making some bright artifacts, bright crystals and iron. So grab these and grab some iron, because I can't see that on my list there. There we go. Grab a bit of that. So obviously the recipe calls for 4 and then 1. So if I do that kind of thing here, you'll see that it processes. However, it does support shapeless crafting in this sense. So even if I do something like this, it'll still work, because it can detect that it's got enough crystals. You know, if I put like 3 in here though, for example, it does have a bit of a GUI delay on that, but you can see I've got 3 here, 1 of these there. If I put this there, it will still work, kind of thing. So it is fairly freeform in the way you put it. So long as it has sufficient resources, it will allow it to go, and it will pull out exactly what it needs. Of course, it supports stacking, so if I do a recipe that stacks, I can put like this and like that. And even though the recipe calls for 1 and 1, it will actually allow me to support with these different slots available here, and will pull out of whichever slot is first. So this is the first slot, this is the second, third, 4th and 5th slots in that order, so that's where it will pull out of. And that allows for the best sort of compatibility with any automation that I could think of. I may add a system to lock these slots if you need. This does of course support hoppers, so if I can pull out of this thing using a hopper, which will pull out of this slot only. So that's quite a useful thing to have. As you can see here, it shows the research required. Once I pull the void crystal out, it says I don't have the research, because it reads the research off the crystal that's inserted. Once I put it back, it goes green. So that's a thing. And completing the forge research also allows you to craft these things called, well, I'm calling them ore crystals at the moment. And we have a few different minerals that you can make with it. Of course, I don't actually have any of these ores or ingots in the game, so they don't actually do anything. But if they detect like a zinc or a nickel or whatever, it will add that recipe to the ritual system, and you'll be able to process it as such. Currently, iron and gold are supported. Obviously, in the vanilla game, you just simply combine an ore with a sand in the ritual. However you want to do it, just like this, why not? That works for me. That will obviously support it, and it will pull out these crystals in the bottom. And these things can be smelted into 2 ingots each. So this is your ore doubling mechanic, and this is unlocked using the Arcane Forge research. So there's a couple things there. So essentially the Arcane Forge is designed to make your life easier, because otherwise, if you want to do any of these, you'd need to set up a whole ritual circle each time and wait for it to process and all of that. And this time you don't even need to worry about any of that. And also you don't need to worry about the mana requirements of the research, because it will just power it up with the Void Crystal as it goes. We'll probably be seeing other blocks added in future for the other rituals, because at the moment only the fusion one's there. Though to be fair, other than growth, there aren't really enough other rituals that need it. I might do one for knowledge, because if you don't like the research mechanic much, this is something you're going to be doing a lot of. So that's a thing. So yeah, I think that's about everything I wanted to talk about for this update. Obviously there's more stuff coming along down the line. But yeah, I think that is everything that's here. So hope you guys enjoyed this update video. Hope you guys check out the latest updates and all of that. Things are getting somewhere, I think. So see you guys next time. Goodbye.